Welcome back to Zygor Guides. Today, we're delving into the final spider-themed dungeon of this patch, the City of Threads. This adventure has us infiltrating deep within the city to confront Ezo, the Grand Splicer. But before we begin our journey, let's talk about party composition. Bringing a rogue, priest, or cause augur engineer with at least 25 skill can be a game changer. They can interact with shadecasters throughout the dungeon, granting all nearby party members the Stolen Power buff, a 30-second boost to damage, healing, and movement speed after a brief channel. Just make sure to stay close until the channel finishes to receive the buff. Interrupts are crucial here. Without a healthy supply of kicks, your healer might get overwhelmed by chain-casted bolts. A group lacking interrupts is a recipe for disaster in this place. Lastly, there's a particularly nasty mini-boss later on where multiple poison dispels can make a world of difference. Classes like evokers, druids, paladins, monks, and especially shamans with their poison cleansing totem can trivialize an otherwise challenging encounter. Alright, now that we're fully prepared, let's get started. As we kick off our journey, hug the right wall to skip the first two mobs. This route brings us straight to our first Shadecaster. With the buff active, we engage our first pull, 2 Sariki Venom Blades, and 2 Sariki Silk Binders. The Venom Blades put pressure on your tank with Venom Strike, dealing heavy physical damage followed by a hefty 6-second DOT. Plan to mitigate this, but remember, it can be dispelled. The Silk Binders will chain web bolts at random targets. Interrupt these initially to help group up the mobs, but don't burn all your interrupts here. Their Silk Binding is a much more dangerous cast that will demand your attention. After a short wind-up, they channel on their target, dealing heavy damage and applying a 20% slow. If their channel completes, the target gets stunned for 4 seconds. You can pull these 4 mobs and, with good coordination, chain them into a Royal Swarm Guard and some Battle Scarabs, or handle them separately. Beware of the Royal Swarm Guard's Earth Shatter, a frontal attack dealing lethal damage and knocking you back. It also uses Ravenous Swarm, applying a heavy DOT to all players for 6 seconds. The Battle Scarabs are a little more than nuisances and die quickly. Next, we head up the ramp to tackle a patrol identical to the pack we just faced. There's an additional Shadecaster here you can use, but be cautious not to pull the nearby dangerous pack. Stick to the southern area of effect. We then engage another pack consisting of a Royal Swarm Guard, more Scarabs, and 2 more Silk Binders. Handle this group as before, but place extra emphasis on interrupting web bolt casts. Combined with the Swarm Guard's Ravenous Swarm, these can be lethal. Finally, we face a large number of Scarabs with a Swarm Guard and a Herald of Ansurik behind them. Pull these and chain in the additional Scarabs. The Herald of Ansurik attempts to cast Twist Thoughts on a party member, dealing significant damage and dropping a damaging void zone at their feet. Interrupt this every time. Late kicks extend your interrupt coverage, which is crucial here. The Herald also uses Shadows of Doubt on a party member, a magic damage over time that launches orbs in a formation when it expires or is dispelled. If you're affected, stay still to let your party position around you. Healers, be ready to dispel quickly. Behind this, more Scarabs await to be chained into the pull. Watch out for their frontal attacks and Shadows of Doubt. With the Herald interrupted, you're ready to face Orator Krixfisk. This boss is all about positioning and awareness. The fight involves a lot of micro movements, so stay on your toes. He starts with Chains of Oppression, pulling everyone in and forcing you to stay within a confined area for the duration of the fight. The initial pull deals significant damage, so be prepared. Watch out for Terrorize, a frontal attack. Dodge it promptly to give yourself time to react to the upcoming Shadows of Doubt. Shadows of Doubt returns from the trash earlier, but now it affects 2 party members. Spread out within the circle and stay still so your healer can dispel one quickly. The other player should use a defensive cooldown and prepare for some heavy damage. The orb formation is the same, but space is limited. Krixvisk also uses Subjugate on the tank, dealing mixed damage and applying a slow. This is followed by Vociferous Indoctrination, which deals significant group damage over 4 seconds and drops a Lingering Influence beneath him. Standing in the Lingering Influence deals heavy damage every second, and it grows quickly. Move as a group to avoid it while handling other mechanics. Stay nimble and stay coordinated, and you'll bring down the first boss. Now you're ready to delve deeper into the City of Threads. Taking down Orator Krixvisk was no small feat. But as the challenges ramp up, managing all these mechanics can feel pretty overwhelming. If you've ever wished for a trusty companion to guide you through, you're in luck. Meet Zygor Guides, the ultimate in-game assistant for World of Warcraft. Zygor isn't just a leveling guide, it's your personal mentor, helping you navigate everything from intricate dungeons to efficient gold making. Whether you're leveling a new character, optimizing your gear, or planning your next dungeon run, Zygor has you covered with step-by-step guides, dynamic quest tracking, and even automated gear suggestions. So, the next time you're facing a tough pull or complex mechanics, let Zygor take the stress out of the equation. Click the link in the description to get access to Zygor today. Now, let's dive back into the City of Threads. Crossing the bridge, we enter a unique area of the dungeon. First up, we have to take down Zephytic. Interrupt his web bolts and dodge the swirlies from Gossamer Barrage. He goes down pretty quickly. When Zephytic is low on health, he applies Perfume Toss to the party, granting us pheromones that allow us to navigate the city without drawing suspicion. Now we can detect the locations of the 4 special Eye of the Queen mobs. The first one is right in front of us, and we chain it with Zephytic. First is Void Rush, which applies a 5-second DOT to party members. This deals significant damage on higher keys. The second ability is Null Slam. The eye disappears and reappears behind a player before unleashing a large frontal attack that can be lethal. A good strategy is to start moving when she vanishes to avoid the frontal. After defeating the first eye, you'll notice shade-casted images trying to lead you around the city to find the remaining 3. The best approach is to always go left. There are a limited number of set spawns in 3 areas, so running the same circuit helps. Be mindful of patrolling guards. If they catch you, you'll be sent back to the start. The first queen is accompanied by an agile pursuer and a web marauder. The pursuer throws knives at random party members while the marauder presses the tank with rigorous jab, dealing physical damage and applying a stacking debuff that increases damage taken from future stabs. After dispatching the first queen, mount up and continue around the perimeter. You might need to venture deep into the city to find the second queen. This queen has a marauder and a covert webmancer. The webmancer casts Grimweave Blast, a chain lightning spell that should be interrupted, and Mending Web, a heal over time buff that should also be kicked or purged. Mount up again and cut across the city using the raised platform to navigate. We locate our final queen on the far side, accompanied by 3 additional mobs, one of each kind from the previous queens. Handle this pack as before, prioritize interrupts, avoid frontals, and manage the ads. After defeating her, mount up one last time and head towards the Vizier. Now that all 4 queens are down, he'll lead you to the Fangs of the Queen, NX and VX. This is a 2-target cleave fight where the bosses share a health pool. One will be in an attacking role while the other provides support, swapping roles throughout the encounter. Expect significant group damage here, so use defensives and assist your healer whenever possible. Starting off, NX uses Shade Slash, a dangerous frontal attack that inflicts heavy mixed damage and leaves behind an echoing shade. This shade will mimic NX's abilities, including Shade Slash and Duskbringer. Duskbringer deals heavy AoE damage to all players and inflicts lethal damage to those within 15 yards of NX and his shades. As you're forced to move away, VX targets the group with Icicles. Icicles deal heavy damage and leave a 12-second DOT in lines radiating from VX's position. This damage coincides with Duskbringer, resulting in intense group damage, so stay alert. Throughout the fight, VX also uses Knife Throw on random party members, adding to the incoming damage. NX employs Shadow Shunpu, jumping to a player and applying a similar effect. Both bosses build energy over time. At 100 energy, they execute Synergic Step, repeatedly dashing around the arena and dealing line damage. Try to move together to keep them stacked for efficient cleave. After this phase, they swap roles. Now, VX attacks the tank with Rhyme Dagger. The group must stack within the blue circle to quickly remove the stacks from the tank. At least 3 members need to be inside to clear the debuff swiftly. Otherwise, the tank may suffer lethal magic damage. Maintain focus, manage your defensives, and eventually, you'll bring down these bosses, allowing you to proceed deeper into the city towards the Transformatory and our final 2 bosses. Heading up the bridge, we're met with returning web marauders and several Sariki conscripts. We pull these and advance up the bridge to engage another pack with more conscripts, marauders, and 2 agile pursuers. This group deals considerable tank damage, so make sure your healers are prepared. Up the ramp to our left is the Transformatory. We can chain the same mob types with additional Webmancers as our cooldowns allow, moving towards the Royal Venom Shell at the top. Keep an eye on the Webmancers and coordinate interrupts to keep them grouped. The Royal Venom Shell uses Venomous Spray, leaving a large DOT on the group. Dispelling these quickly, using single dispels or a poison cleansing totem can mitigate significant damage. This is followed by Dark Barrage, which creates swirlies that you need to dodge to avoid lethal damage. The Venom Shell also uses Earth Shatter, a frontal attack we've seen before. Once inside, we head left and group up 2 Tsuriki Unnaturalers, 3 Skittering Assistants, and an unstable test subject. The Tsurikis cast Void Wave, which can be interrupted to prevent magic damage and knockbacks. The test subject creates swirlies with Dark Barrage and damages all players with Fierce Stomping. The assistants focus on the tank but may occasionally charge a ranged player, so stay close for efficient cleave. We move past the 3rd boss room to grab some trash we'll need to deal with later. Another test subject and Skittering Assistants. Down the stairs are some congealed droplets, slow-moving mobs that only melee attack. Defeating them triggers the boss, the Coagulation. This boss offers a slight reprieve with fewer mechanics, but demands careful healing and defensive usage. The main mechanic is Viscous Darkness. 8 orbs spawn around the boss after a damaging knockback and begin collapsing towards it. Your group must intercept these orbs to prevent the boss from healing. Each orb that you absorb places a Healing Absorb debuff on you. A savvy tank can soak several orbs, but everyone should aim to catch at least one. Preventing the orbs from reaching the boss is crucial. Healers need to remove these healing absorbs before the boss reaches 100 energy, at which point it unleashes Dark Pulse, dealing damage to all players until it's over. The boss also uses Blood Surge, denying melee range and leaving a pool of dark blood. Standing in it deals heavy damage. Lastly, it uses Oozing Smash on the tank, a magic damage tank buster that reduces healing received for 10 seconds. Manage your health and positioning to defeat the Coagulation and move on to the final boss of the City of Threads. Afterward, head back up the stairs and down the hallway where we had our last pull. 2 honored citizens await, transforming into an Elder Shadow Weaver and a hulking Warshell as you approach. The Shadow Weaver chains web bolts and occasionally uses Shadow Shield, preventing interrupts until the shield is broken. Both mobs share abilities with our final boss. The Shadow Weaver uses Umbral Weave, which snares all players for 12 seconds. These webs can be destroyed, so stay stacked to break them quickly. The Warshell uses Tremor Slam, a lethal area denial attack that also damages the entire group. It also spawns 4 Hungry Scarabs. The Warshell also uses Ravenous Swarm, dealing damage to the group for 6 seconds, but this ability won't appear on the boss. Now, it's time for the final boss, Itzo the Grand Splicer. Itzo presents a manageable number of mechanics, all of which can be countered similarly. She starts by creating orbs on the ground with shifting anomalies. Periodically, these orbs target a random player and, after a brief delay, fly to that location, marked by a swirly. Colliding with them deals damage and knocks you back, which can be lethal at higher difficulties. If your group stays stacked and moves together when the orbs activate, you can avoid these mechanics smoothly. Throughout the fight, Itzo uses Splice, a heavy DOT applied to the entire party. This aims to weaken you for Tremor Slam or Umbral Weave. Continue moving around the room, avoiding orbs as new swirlies appear, until the boss uses Tremor Slam or Umbral Weave. Move together in the same direction to avoid Tremor Slam, or stack up to break the webs from Umbral Weave quickly. Tremor Slam functions as before, but if the scarabs that spawn are allowed to attack their target 5 times, they'll use Gut Burst, likely wiping the group. Focus them down and assist your tank with crowd control. Itzo's final mechanic is Process of Elimination, where she recalls her orbs and flings them at the tank. Each orb deals substantial mixed damage in the area around the tank, so they must separate from the group and use major defensives. After this, new orbs spawn and the cycle repeats. Navigate the orbs, manage Itzo's transformations, and you'll emerge victorious, collecting your well-deserved loot. And that's it for the City of Threads. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into one of the most intricate dungeons in World of Warcraft. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more dungeon and raid guides. Got a strategy of your own or a question about the dungeon? Drop a comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep leveling up, and we'll see you in the next video. Happy adventuring!